Let's take a look. Well, let's talk more about those numbers now. We've got Zwelakhe Mnguni, who's the Chief Investment Officer at Benguela Global Fund Managers. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, Zwelakhe. Let's start with the overall movement. It hasn't been the easiest week for the local bourse this week, but we've seen a huge sell-off on Monday and Tuesday. But today, strong recovery across much of the local bourse. Financial stocks also recovering. What would you say were some of the biggest drivers for today's movements?
Yeah, good evening. I think certainly the rand recovery has played a role. I think we saw what the resources, in particular the platinums, they were down earlier in the day, but they stayed a very strong recovery. I think primarily what we also saw is that the SA Inc. stocks, so the retailers also came through quite strongly. With the likes of Pepco, Mr. Price, all showing some strong performance. And I think we are probably seeing some return of the foreign buyers after the Reserve Bank increased our base rate by 50 basis points. So prime would go to 8.25, and repo would go to 8.25, and prime would go to probably just over 12.
Yeah, and what about the rand? Encouragingly, it has clawed back some of the losses that we've seen over the last few days. Is this turning into a positive story in that it's absorbed all the shocks that it could potentially take? Or are we going to see some volatility going forward?
Look, I think we'll probably see volatility, but I think where the interest rates are in South Africa today, I think we certainly should see a bit of stability. The rand should be a bit more supported at this level. I mean, we offer one of the highest interest rates in the world at the moment. So certainly the bond buyers should be coming back to our market.
Yeah, company updates now. Let's start with Steinhoff, and this is a bit of a complex situation because it's having a bit of a tiff with the shareholders who don't want a certain restructuring plan, almost the equivalent of a business rescue in Europe, to be implemented. And so now they are going to court because the lenders want it, the shareholders don't. And so Steinhoff is finding itself in a bit of a difficult position. What do you reckon is the future of Steinhoff? Because many anticipating that its days are numbered at this stage.
I'll almost agree with that assessment. I think the base case is that Steinhoff has got a market value of about $7 billion, or at least the assets are worth $7 billion. Their debt is $10 billion. So there is a big gap of about $3 billion or 3 billion euros. I certainly think that there is almost no way that they could be able to claw that back. They can't trade through over time to trade out of the situation. So the debt holders are essentially going to take over, particularly because the shareholders, the equity holders in Europe, rejected the deal that could have seen the delayed settlement of the debt. And basically they sought to try and force the debt holders to take a haircut, and that didn't work out so well. So the debt holders are basically going to take over the company, and that probably be the delisting of the company and the end of the story.
Yeah, it's quite an unfortunate story that Steinhoff won and the developments thereof. Another sad story at the moment for our miners in particular, the likes of Thungela, Kumba Iron Ore, as Zwelakhe, is this notion that the cable theft that's happening on the railway lines, on major container corridors, is having an impact on the transportation of essential commodities that are of huge demand in Europe at the moment. How do you reckon these mining companies are going to perhaps handle the situation with Transnet, and if it's eating away at their bottom line?
Look, the situation is unfortunate, and the most unfortunate thing with infrastructure is that it's not a quick fix. You can get all the committees. I mean, I've seen there are lots of committees, the recovery committee and led by so and so. I think at the end of the day, infrastructure is quite a difficult process to fix. There are two issues. The cable theft is one issue, but you also have the availability of the trains, the capacity, availability of the actual trains that hold these things. I think those two factors, to fix them, will probably take a very, very long time. So I don't think it's a very rosy outlook for the transportation of the bulk commodities, and I think we'd like to see maybe at best things holding up at current levels, which is below, significantly below what we saw in the past. I think in the past, transport used to move about 70 million tons. It's probably around 50 million mark at the moment. So we are unlikely to hit anything better than that anytime soon.
Thank you very much for that update. That is Zwelakhe Mnguni, who's the Chief Investment Officer at Benguela Global Fund Managers, wrapping up the markets that were today.